What's up, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla SPY, and the overall markets. I'll talk about some big news that came out involving Donald Trump and his tariffs. Some things he said that are very important and what's going to affect the market going into tomorrow. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 30 in total, and the offer ends at the end of March. Anyways, as far as NIO is going, as you guys can tell, it's a little bit in the green in the after hours, but it did close somewhat flat in the red. We got this big sell-off after Donald Trump announced that he wanted to increase tariffs by an additional 10% on China. That's what caused this big move for many Chinese tickers. However, as time went on, we did see NIO try to base, which is a good sign. And as long as we could try to hold around 4.1, we could attempt to rebound for about 4.3. Now, looking at some pieces of news, you guys could see that the majority of sectors were in the red. We did see Nvda try to bounce. The market basically got a big rug pull when we opened. Then it got a monstrous bounce. We saw SPY bounce by about 14 points. We saw the QQQ also bounce very nicely. But then at the very end of the day, the market sold off again. So it basically did that, and that's what caused this interesting volatility. So just keep that in mind. That's the reason why we saw the market kind of like moving like this. That's very, very important to note. But when it comes to other things, I want to mention that NIO did give their ET7 a lot more exposure. It's very luxurious. It's going to be very, very good with their nice user interface and cool features. So that's what we're seeing, at least so far. Despite that, I didn't see anything else on the news that was too significant for now. We're still waiting for earnings in just a couple of weeks. Just know that historically we tend to be green about 55% of the time on Wednesdays. So there's a good chance we do see some kind of bounce move if we can base at our key support. Now, for the broader markets, whether we get a bounce or not depends on some factors. The first thing worth mentioning is that the US also increased their tariffs on Mexico and Canada. So now we're seeing a 25% tariff on them with 10% on Canadian energy. And then on top of this, I want to mention that Canada has announced they want to retaliate against the US. So they want to basically start imposing 25% tariffs on their imports to the US. They want to do that on about $107 billion worth of goods. And the tariff is going to take effect very, very soon. $20 billion worth of goods already have been tariffed. And then we have another 86 billion left in the next 21 days, according to Canada. So that's what they're doing. That's what Trudeau was talking about. There's a bit of a tariff war that's going on, and this is what caused a lot of volatility in the markets. Today, Donald Trump is going to be speaking in front of the US Congress. This is important because what he says could cause some volatility. He's going to speak at the US House chamber, and that's going to be very important, causing more volatility. So get ready for that. We'll see what Donald Trump has to say. Look at how tariffs work, just so you guys get a reminder about this. When the tariffs are imposed, whether they're 10% or 20%, what happens is the importer now has to pay an additional $1 extra fee to the government that is once again imposing them. And then when the fee is paid for, what tends to happen is this ends up being paid for by the consumer as well. This makes things more expensive, at least for consumers, for the short term. And just keep that in mind. This will reduce business profits and cause a lot of things like that. Donald Trump's reasoning was because of these trade deficits that exist. There's about a this is about a $171 billion trade deficit between the U.S. and Mexico. Also, the same thing is happening between the U.S. and Canada. There's about a $63 billion trade deficit between the countries. He's also arguing that there's other issues that involve certain things coming to the US and a bunch of other factors. I don't want to go into every specific detail. And this is his way of what he believes is going to cause fairness. Once again, if you like the idea or not, it's your choice. He believes that the additional government revenue will help to offset many of these deficits, and we'll see about that. These are the main exports. These are the Canadian exports to the US, essentially. So 32% involve mineral fuels. So we have a 10% tariff on those. And then we have other products such as like machinery, aluminum products, steel, not to mention wood and charcoal, lumber, and the list goes on. So these are going to be very important. And then Mexico's main exports to the US include machinery, mechanical appliances, fuel, not to mention, sorry, not fuel, but optical, photo equipment, vinegar, lots of spices, fruits, vegetables, plastics, and the list goes on. So that, excuse me, that's going to be very important. Not to mention it's going to be affecting cars and production. Going into tomorrow, it's also going to be a big day because we have big data coming out. 15 minutes after the stock market opens, we have the S&P Global Composite and Services PMI reports. Then we have the ISM services business activity, services employment, new orders and prices all coming out. This will likely cause more volatility, so get ready for a big move at 10 a.m. Then to add on to this, just know that we have Target and Best Buy, which just announced earnings. The earnings were so-so. Going into tomorrow, we have Foot Locker in the morning. Then we have just like a few more retail as the day goes on tomorrow. The market's still at extreme fear. It's possible we're trying to form a temporary bottom, but we're not ready yet, and there's going to still be a lot of volatility around the bottom we're trying to form. So we'll see if we see another big dump tomorrow or not, depending on what Donald Trump says during his speech. So get ready for that. But so far, that's what's going to be affecting us. So the main things are going to be the ISM services data and then Mr. Trump's speech in front of Congress. Those are going to be two big factors affecting the way the market's going to move. I do expect a lot of volatility. For NIO, there could be an attempt to get back up to about 4.4 if we base at 4.2. But for SPY and the QQQ, I think there's going to be crazy volatility. We dumped to 572, then we got a monstrous bounce to 586. Then we dumped again to essentially 576, which is where we closed. Now we're bouncing back to 580, so it's just going back and forth for the time being. We're trying to hold this blue trend line right here. You guys can see this blue line. This is what we're trying to hold. We also have this resistance right here, which was previous support. So it's very tricky the way which SPY is moving. We're kind of trading within this range here. So I think that's what's going to likely happen. Heading into tomorrow, I think we kind of gap up a bit. We could dip again and just continue to trade sideways in this range until we pick a direction. There could be a bigger move to the to the upwards direction, because of this bullish divergence. But we'll see about that. It all depends on Donald Trump, so I do expect a lot of sideways price action. We might try to push for the trend line for the low 580s, dump back down to 575, if not towards the lows from the day, then bounce back up and continue to trade sideways. I do anticipate a range day very soon. I think that the QQQ on the 4 hour is trying to rebound. However, what could happen is we likely gap up to the low 500s, see another dip move, then continue to bounce again, see a lot of volatility. I do expect that as a very, very strong possibility. The Russell is testing resistance right over here at this trend line. If we break this, we're looking for a move to about 210. I think we push to this. We might dip depending on what Trump says, and we could be looking for a bounce. On ES, we dumped quite a bit. We're actually trying to hold this range. So we're technically still in this range on ES, which is a good sign. You guys can see we're trying to hold this support. If this holds, we could be looking for a rebound closer to about 5,900. We'll give that some time to develop. NQ's on a bit of a downtrend. You want to see this reclaim 20,700 to bounce. Otherwise, it's trading sideways. Lucky for Nvda, we did not close below 106 or 108. We're trying to hold up, so this is actually looking a little bit more promising compared to the markets. So to me, might be a dip move before it tries to balance. We could be looking for 120 very soon. Tesla dumps, but it's trying to hold this trend line. There's a slight bullish divergence, so we might be looking for a test of like 268 to 270. And if we bounce off that, we could attempt to push for 290 again and just continue to trade sideways. I'm not really expecting too much depending on what Donald Trump says. Apple's barely holding this trend line. We'll have to see if it could hold to 238 or not. We came a little bit short. We'll see if Donald Trump causes a bounce or not. If not, we could be dumping to about 235. So we'll see if this trend line holds. We're barely at support right now. Coin trading sideways, forming a very, very nice double bottom like structure. There's also a slight bullish divergence, so this typically does signify upside a bit more as a likely possibility for 220. Amazon has a bullish divergence. We're trying to push for about 209. Meta is also trying to rebound here with a bullish divergence, trying to get back up to about 657. We're trying to see a push for 393 and then eventually 176 for Google, and that was for Microsoft and Google, by the way. So with that being said, what I see for the market is that the VIX is looking very volatile right now, and I do expect a lot of volatility. I can't make a perfect prediction, but I do expect us to see a lot of sideways price action for now, where we see big dumps and big pumps over and over again. And we're waiting to see the market base, which I think it might base before we get a nice bounce. It could happen soon, but this was going to depend on what Donald Trump says tomorrow during his speech and what kind of reaction we get to this ISM services report for tomorrow. We'll be open-minded nonetheless, so just wait and see. Anyways, I thank you all so much for listening. We dumped so much without much of a major bounce, so I do think that the market will eventually try to form a base, and we could be looking for a rebound move soon, just temporarily. With that being said, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. I'll be back with another upload tomorrow. Until then, thank you for listening. As far as NIO goes, I just want to say that it is possible we just try to base at 4.2. If that's the case, we're looking for a move back up towards about 4.4. I would love to see that. So I just want to thank you again for listening. So please have a good rest of your day and peace out.